Hey guys, StandbyLuke7 here. Going to be doing the Hotshot Racing Season 2 overview, essentially. The entire regular season recap. We'll do one separate one for the grand finals as well. I was going to upload the other recaps that I had for each week that I never got around to uploading. I was just going to go through those, but then I figured, you know what, might as well just do an entire season overview because it doesn't really make sense at this point to upload all those week by week recaps. You know, now that we're past that time, might as well just do this one and then do the grand finals one. But yeah, so season 2 went pretty well. I mean, I guess I could say it like that now because the regular season is over. Yeah, it went pretty well. You can see every podium result here, every overall podium result. I'm not going to be going through every single individual race like I usually do in the recaps, going through every position for a race. I'm not going to be doing that, but I can even zoom it a bit, show the, that's about right, yeah, show the entire schedule here, so you can get a look at that. But yeah, so as far as the win columns, or as the win column went, it was mostly myself and Real Deal as the top 2 drivers, but Roman got a couple more there at the end. And then Opix sneaking in with that other win. And then in second place, Opix in the beginning of the season, lots of seconds. Roman with a decent amount of seconds as well. But then in this second half of the season, it was more so Roman and Real Deal. But then Opix did get another second place there at the end. And I had a few seconds here too. And then the third place spot on the podium, lots of Real Deal in that first GP, but then never finished third the rest of the season. That's kind of crazy. Like, that's really weird. And then we had the couple random one-off finishes. I forgot to mention it here, but Clatton getting that second place at Cargo Chaos, Virus getting the third here, Temple Ruins and Sector getting the third here, Heated Highway. So those one-off podiums where those drivers were able to get their podiums for that one race, which is nice to see. It's always nice to see that the drivers that don't regularly finish on the podium to get a podium finish here or there throughout the season. It's always nice to see. But yeah, so started off with a decent amount of Real Deal, and I had a few thirds, and then Sector had the random third. Roman had one. But then the second half of the season, you had the random one from Virus, and then it was just all Opix and Roman really holding down this third place spot on the podium until I got the one there at the very end. So yeah, interesting how there was just like these pretty set patterns at like different times in the season with these podium spots. You can see Opix, Roman, Real Deal, and myself all with a decent amount of overall podium finishes. And you can see how they line up here, have them in order. So first, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third, first, second, third for each event. What is it? Opix with 2 third or 3 third overalls and a second. Was able to take the sweep on the overall wins. Roman had, when Roman finished in the top 3 overall, he was second each time when he was in it. Real Deal the second here, and then the 2 thirds. So pretty nice spread there. Yeah, I think that's all I can really say for this. Let's move on to the grand final. Get a little preview at it. We'll take a look at the point standings too, but I guess I might as well just do this now since we're on the schedule doc. But yeah, so the grand final. Frozen Freeway winning the vote for that last track to get in, so that's nice to see. We saw Cargo Chaos from Boss Level last season. Now we get to see Frozen Freeway have its run in the grand final. Other tracks, we have Casino Run, Dino Dash, the Marina, and Ski Paradise. And pretty good set of tracks here. I mean, I don't know how everybody feels. I hope pretty decent, considering this was, a driver voted grand final track list essentially. But yeah, I feel pretty good about this. I think this is a pretty solid track list. It's not too, like, not all the tracks are like too similar. Like, there's a good variety in here. I could see myself using different, my different car types on these tracks, so to get some ideas of what I want to use on which tracks. So that's nice to see. It would have been kind of lame, I think, if it was just like mostly tracks where it's like I kind of want to run my drift car on every track. But it does look like it's a pretty nice set of tracks here. Like get some good variety in here. Marina being one of probably the easiest track in here, but then you have like Ski Paradise and Frozen Freeway, maybe the 2 hardest, and then you have Dino Dash, Casino Run as like those nice intermediate tracks. Yeah, I actually really like this layout. I think I'm not sure. I might like this more than last season's grand finals layout. I'd have to go back and look at it and really compare, but I think this is solid. I think this is going to be solid. And I failed to mention it yet, but what makes this grand final really special, it was voted on, the two-moto format for the grand finals. So we're going to be doing that special good old format just for the grand final this season. And who knows, if it goes well, maybe we'll have it in as just the normal format. If we do season 3, we'll see. How that goes and how it goes in this grand final. And I have it starting 30 minutes earlier. I'm gonna figure that out. Probably the day this recap goes up. I might even push it earlier. Like this is, this is probably gonna have to start earlier for sure. Or maybe we'll just like cut practice or something. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I could see cutting practice. Maybe we'll just cut practice. We'll figure it out. But yeah, definitely looking forward. Definitely looking forward to this grand final. I have no idea what's gonna happen. It's like look at this. The regular season, what, 20 races. This grand final is 10. Like that's crazy that the grand final is like half the length of the regular season. That's absolutely nuts. And I have no idea how it's gonna go, but I just hope that it's a good event. I hope it goes pretty well. I hope we don't have too many issues, because the issues can happen occasionally. Hope we have a good turnout, and I hope it's a lot of fun for everyone involved. So let's go to the point standings here. So wrap all this stuff up. So one thing to mention here. So the mulligans, right? The mulligans are factored in here. So these drivers with 20 starts have 4 of their worst finishes taken off of their points total. That's been a thing in pretty much every racing series we've done. It's brought it over to Hotshot. So these 5 drivers do have mulligans factored in. These 3 drivers do not. So let's go through it. So I ended the season with 123 points, taking the regular season championship here. 5 GP wins, 11 wins, 20 podiums, 20 top 5s. And then Roman took second place, runner-up, 108 points, 3 wins, 16 podiums, and 18 top 5s. And then we have Real Deal, that third place runner-up position. Interestingly enough, I checked it, the exact same points total that he had last season, which is really weird and crazy, because I feel like his performance this season was much better, but he still ended up with the same points total. I don't know how the hell that happens, but it happened. So there we go. I don't know how, but it happened. So 101 points with the 5 wins, second most wins. Very, very good amount of wins there. So definitely a step up for him from last season there. He was able to get on the top step of the podium multiple times. 10 podiums though, so he wasn't on the podium as much as these other drivers, but when he was, it was on the top step 50% of the time, which is pretty good. And 19 top 5s, so even though he wasn't always in that podium, he was right outside of it a lot of the time too. And then we go to Opix, 4th place, really close to being in the second and third place. Like a few races go differently, a few more wins. Easily could have been in this second, third place podium position. So definitely a driver in contention for that next season. I would say too, with a pretty favorable position. That 4th place spot in the draft, where he might get like that last good car. He might get like that last good car for some of those draft spots before these 3 drivers can take a look at it, before the podium drivers can take a look at it. So that might be an edge that Opix will have going into next season, now that we have a little bit more knowledge on the draft and knowledge on all the different cars you can select and stuff like that. That's definitely something I would look out for with him, in regards to already looking ahead to next season. Is just like a pretty, him and Sector really / Jared, depending on how that goes, but those 2 with really favorable positions for the draft. And if Cladden is really serious about about trying to take it a little bit more seriously, pretty serious about taking it more seriously, like that sentence, but if he is actually going to try that, then he's another driver, and like the drivers here to look out for. I mean, he's had a lot of bad finishes, but he just got a second out of nowhere at one of the harder tracks at the last GP, and I think that shows that there is potential there if he can actually get it together, and have a clean race, not crash out, and actually just complete all the laps and not like slam out of the track into the wall or whatever, that he can actually have some good finishes. So definitely some drivers to look out for next season. And it'll be interesting to see how the podium drivers do too, with the way the draft is going to be, with the more knowledge and everything. It'll be it'll be a lot harder for these guys. Really interested to see how it plays out. But let's finish, now that I got that little looking ahead to next season. I wanted to address that at some point, now that I got that out of the way. So yeah, Opix 98 points, very close to Slaunch's 4th place position points total. I think Slaunch had 97, finishing 4th, so he's just edged that out by a point. So interesting how they were So close there. He was able to get that one win. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get on the top step of the podium another time, but he still has the grand final. So that is another 10 opportunities for him to maybe take some more wins in that grand final, build up some confidence in the next season. Probably what he's looking to do. But that one win, which did come pretty early on in the season, was a very nice one. And even though he wasn't able to get back on the top step, he was able to finish on the podium a lot more in the season and finished in the top 5 every single time. Only driver besides myself to do that. We're the only 2 drivers to do that in the season, so that's very impressive. Having that type of consistency is really good, and if you can get a little bit more of that top-end power and get a few more wins with that type of consistency, that's the makings of podium finish in the regular season for sure. So, definitely on the cusp of that. Then we go to Sector/Jared, our team spot here with the 67 points right in the middle. A little far back from the front and a little far ahead of the back, like just not really anyone to battle with, just sort of there in 5th, with the 1 podium finish on Heated Highway, because I only remember that because we just looked at it, and 12 top 5s. So not too bad. With a little bit more practice, I genuinely and like good car selections in the draft, I actually mean this, like I'm not trolling. I actually think Sector and Jared could both be. We'll have to see if Jared wants to do it regularly. But yeah, I don't want to roast Justin here, but I think Justin and especially Jared could be pretty good drivers. Like if they took the time in this game, if they took the time to practice it and figured out the draft and actually like had a good car selection, I think they could both be pretty solid. Jared wasn't able to. So Sector had the higher ceiling, right? Like he got the podium finish, but I think Jared's consistency was a lot better. That's what impressed me about Jared. The little stint that we got of Jared racing in his spot, Jared's consistency was pretty damn good. And there were a couple tracks where, a couple incidents go differently. Could have won. I genuinely think he could have won. Easily gotten a podium or 2. Some of those races. I really mean that. I think he was really close to it. Yeah, I think we just take more racing. Like if he races the grand finals, like that would be some good experience for him. I think that's what Jared needs really, is just some more time on the game and getting used to. And this is probably the same thing with Clatton too. And Sector gets cheesed by it a lot too. So like for these 3 drivers, is that I think that they are accustomed to like the contact in this game the least out of the top end of drivers, and I think that hurts, right? Because like if you race Hotshot, if you've played the game, you'll know what I mean. Like the way contact works in this game is just very different than most racing games that I've played, and it's just really weird because you have to be ready, right? Because most contact honestly doesn't feel like it affects you that much. At least in my case, it doesn't feel like it affects my driving that much. But every once in a while, you'll have that one bump that just throws you way off course. But every single time somebody makes contact with you, you need to expect that it could be that one bump that throws you off course, if you know what I mean. Like if you aren't paying attention or you just figure it's going to be a normal bump, for one little draft into a bump situation or whatever, and then that ends up being the one that actually like sends you haywire and you're not ready for it, then you just crash out into the wall. But if you're ready for it, with the way the drifting works in this game, you can save it a lot of the time. If you're really ready for it and you're really mindful with your driving and you're really paying attention, you can get away with some crazy shit in this game with the contact. So that's the thing for these like 3 drivers right here. I think I think there's a lot of races where they get cheesed by that, and if they could get used to that, I actually think they could be competitive. Maybe not like consistent top 4 like these 4 competitive, but maybe a few more podiums under their belt, maybe a few more top 5s to take away from these guys. I really do think that, especially Jared. I think Jared, not even memeing, I think Jared showed, of these 3 drivers, I think Jared showed the most promise, even though he didn't have the highest finish, right? Sector had a podium and Clatton had a really nice 2nd place, but I think Jared's consistency was just really impressive to me. And I don't know. I think if he practiced the game and was smart with the draft, I think he could be pretty good. And if we could ever do like 2 divisions, I want to get through this season recap. We don't want to get to future potential stuff too much, but if we could ever get to that, like if Sector, Jared, and Clatton were in like a different division, holy shit, they could be pretty good. But all right, let's get back on track here. We got a little bit more. You guys are getting a little extra in this recap, a little more than you bargained for. So Clatton, 6th place, just barely edging out Virus with 47. So yeah, 49 points, 1 podium. He had that second place at the very end. Not as many top fives. Really, I want to say up and down. It wasn't really up and down though. Like, it was mostly rough finishes and rough crashes. But that 1 second place at the end, I think, might have given him a little bit of confidence. And if anything, getting, like, when you're a driver that is, you know, consistently finishing off the top 5 off the podium, when you get that one good finish, it kind of like shows you, it's like, wait, maybe I actually can do this. I just need to like figure out what the hell's going wrong most of the time. You know what I mean? But it proves that you can finish at the top. So maybe that can give Clyde a little bit of that confidence going into the grand final and going into next season, and maybe he can turn things around there. Virus, it just depended. Like, he had some pretty solid finishes. Maybe it was just him getting used to, like, this new format can be pretty rough, right, for new drivers, like having to race the multiple cars. It's definitely something that these experienced drivers will have an easier time with. Another thing for, like, this set of drivers that I think will make next season easier for them, right, is having this season with the multiple cars and figuring out how that works under their belt. But yeah, I think that's the case for him. Like, some of his cars, he looked really uncomfortable on the track, and then other cars in his lineup he looked better and he got some good finishes with. So just has to figure it out a little bit more and keep at it. I don't think he's that far away from being a decent driver. Alex, really rough start, just needs to put some more time into the game. And again, he even suggested it, and I even like sort of hinted at it, but if we could ever have another division, maybe that could help him out a little bit too, to race against some other new drivers and stuff like that. It can be hard when you're like easily the newest, easily the least amount of time put in, and it's only a group of 8, right? Like in a group of 16, there's a lot more potential, well, double the potential for, you know, another driver or so to just not have as much time and be starting out like you are. But in a set of 8, it's a bit harder for that, right? And, you know, like, obviously we all, you know, these 5 drivers, and I think Jared might have had a race or 2 as well. So, like, these 6 drivers had experience previous season. Clatton maybe had a couple races. I don't think it was too much. It was really just Virus and Alex. They were the only two. Newcomers, really, so that's difficult. And if we could ever get another division going or something like that, you know, maybe that could help them out a little bit and give them some time to grow a little bit. All right, so yeah, there we go. Point standings. Anything else? Take a quick look at this. I think I got through most of what I want to talk about. Quick look at one of my favorite stats, how the different types of cars did. And here's a look for boss level. And as you can see, Drift and Excel tying in last. Speed doing the best, but didn't win a race. And Balanced finishing just behind Speed, because a big reason why, because Roman, Luke, and Opix, we all had really good races with our Balanced cars. So it was a little like top heavy, but Speed was really strong in that like second, third place podium position, which is what gave it the edge. You know, Balance was a little more all over the place. Excel had the 1 win, but then a lot of and my second, but a lot of bad finishes there too, which is why it finished so far back. Drift had my win, a Roman third, some fourths and fifths, so a little bit better in the middle than usual, but yeah, a lot of last place finishes too. But yeah, interesting spread here. Balanced, looking a little bit better, looking like a better option. The most wins, if you want to look at it that way. Two wins with a Balanced car. The Speed actually didn't even take one, but it still had the best overall average, which is hilarious. Hard to top. So I will definitely check this stat again after the grand final, and maybe try to like get all the averages averaged out at the end of the season, because I think that'd be very interesting too, and could you know, that data could help us decide like how the draft should work. Could help with that. But yeah, We've seen a very clear trend, which is that Speed car, as we expected, has been the best throughout the season, very clearly. But then Drift, Excel, and Balanced all seem pretty close. Like, Drift, Excel, and Balanced, I guess you could say Drift is probably at the back end, but even then, there are good finishes with the Drift car. And Balanced and Excel are just like, Excel was definitely the pick early in the season, but Balanced is like starting to come into its own here at the end. So it's interesting how these are working out with each other. These seem very close. And then Drift is just like so up and down. It's hard to say. And just a quick look to end off this recap. Here you go. I'm not going to go through all these in particular, but if you want to look at them, I was keeping track of what the point standings would be for the specific car types. Mostly out of curiosity. There's nothing really to win here. Like, we weren't really competing for this. This was mostly just curiosity on my part. I was just curious how this went. So scrolling through these real quick, taking a look at the acceleration here, and then going over to speed. You can see that wind column lighting up. That wind column lighting up as I switch over to speed. Interestingly enough, Roman having a rough time with the speed car. Second place finisher in points. Not having as easy of a time with the speed car, but really picking it up in his other cars. Very interesting. Completely opposite to Season 1 for him. And here, look at the drift car, which is mostly me and Roman. And Opix was close a few times. A few like off the podium finishes from being right up there too. But for the most part, a good chunk of the drivers struggling with the drift car, very evident. As like just looking at the numbers, like look at just how much higher the numbers are in general in the speed column compared to the drift column. Just like how much higher they are for like pretty much everybody almost. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, that's about it. And we're gonna be having the grand finals here very soon. Hope everybody is looking forward to it. Don't miss out on it. Whether you're a driver or a spectator, if you want to watch it, I think it'll be a pretty fun event to watch. I'm definitely going to tell a couple of my friends about it that don't, that don't race, but are kind of like, I guess, interested on the sideline about the whole thing, and to keep an eye out for it, because I think this could be a pretty fun event, and it's just like so unique. It's like a COD Champs finals for this shit. It's really dope. I hope it goes well. And it was cool to see. And just like a quick note on season 2, it was cool to see like pretty much all of the new stuff work out well. Like nothing really seemed clearly bad in the season. Everything went pretty well. The mix of using the different car types was very interesting, so I could definitely see that returning. Depending on how this 2-moto format goes for the grand finals, maybe we keep it like this where it's just the grand final. Maybe drivers want to bring it to the regular season. The draft format was pretty cool, I think. And the mirrored track vote was a pretty cool way to spice up the racing week by week. And I'm sure we'll see that return, or maybe we'll see a twist on it or something like that, or maybe an expansion on it, something along those lines. But yeah, it was really cool to see. It's hard, like usually when there's a lot of stuff changing with something like this, it usually fucks shit up, right? When there's like too much at once. But a lot of the stuff that we did worked out pretty well here, so that's nice to see. I'm really happy about that. Hope you guys are too. And we'll see you in the next recap after the grand finals, and hopefully see you at the grand finals. Later.